I want to try something different with this video, and I'd love to hear your feedback. Like, do you like this, or do you hate it? Just let me know. So for about a year now, maybe 2 years, about every day somebody leaves a comment on my channel accusing me of being AI, and I don't know if they're talking about the writing or the research or the narration. For the record, I'm not AI. I'm a real person. I spend a lot of time doing research writing, and especially narration. I'm very, very bad at narrating, actually, and it takes me a long time to clean up my audio after I've narrated. That takes the most time out of anything. But anyway, I think the only way that I can sort of prove to people that I'm not AI is to do this sort of podcast-style narration with riffing, without any real preparation, no polished prose, which I am extremely bad at. This is why I never do interviews, because I'm so bad at speaking off the top of my head. But I think in a format like this, I at least can't be accused of being AI, because as far as I know, AI can't riff like this. So anyway, what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to read, I've gone through some of my old videos, and I've collected interesting comments of people's experiences on different topics. And in this one, I'm going to cover the topic of pale humanoids. This is a weird phenomenon where people will see a human-like creature, usually at night, with pale skin. It's naked, almost always naked, I think. And it has long limbs and long arms and long legs, and giant black eyes. And I first heard about this, well, the first video I did on this was on Missy Sterling's experience. Now, Missy Sterling's from the American Southeast, and her experience took place one night when she was driving on the Mississippi-Alabama border. And she's actually finally published her book on it. It's called Pale. And I actually wrote the foreword for it, which I guess through the editorial process became the afterword. But yeah, I'll include a link to that in the description. I understand there's a little drama involved with the publication of this book because of some nasty things that her former publisher did to her. But that's her story. I'll let her tell it. But anyway, after going through that video, I checked out the comments on it, and I'm lucky. I think I have one of the best comment sections on YouTube. It's super. Everybody leaves these super interesting, insightful comments, and a lot of times really interesting stories. And so I've gone through that video and some other videos, and I've gathered what I think are some of the most interesting comments on pale crawler sightings. So in this video, I'm going to read those comments and maybe say a few words of my own. So let's take a look. The first comment, this is 5 years ago. Looks like his name is Rookie Mate. He says, "My buddies and I, when we were younger, were checking out this abandoned factory. And when we first got there, my buddy was like, 'Look.' And we looked up and saw an orb going across the field in front of the factory. And then the next second we saw a 7+ foot white humanoid-looking thing chasing the orb. Let me tell you, I've never seen such a thing ever before or again. The way the white figure moved was super frightening. We'll never forget that night. My buddies and I ran so fast, the two of us lost a shoe." Interesting. So there's no comment on where this abandoned factory was located. Oh, and I'm just looking. It looks like the same guy left a comment. Maybe it was in reply to his own comment. Okay, yeah, it was reply to his own comment. He says, "This is all maybe 100 feet in front of us. And the tall white thing, that for sure was no regular human being, was maybe 15 feet or so behind the orb chasing it. But what made it so frightening was how fast they both were moving. It was almost like they were in fast forward. I've never seen anyone or any animal move that fast. The whole experience was definitely unhuman. And you're welcome. I think about it often because it always raised questions for me. Helps me keep an open mind in today's world also." And then he did a third. It looks like it's a back and forth between him and some other person. He says, "Of course, mate. I was actually talking to my buddies today, and we were fishing. That were there when it happened, and we all remember it very clearly. I'm used to getting trolled anyway. Many times when I try to tell our story, people have trouble believing. It is what it is. But I feel like it's until they experience something so unexplainable, then they may never be able to understand or relate. Like, this is another wild story. I was 8 years old, and my sister was almost 3 years old, and she was up in the attic playing hide-and-go-seek. And my brother and I were in the stairway that leads up to the attic listening to her. And I can't remember the name, but she was mentioning this person who was a little boy. while playing hide and seek. So my mom and I asked what she was doing. She then responded, "I'm playing with my so-and-so." That little boy's name was the same name that my mother's good friend named her son, but she sadly had a miscarriage at around the same time my sister was born. So it sounds like he's getting into a ghost story at the end. And then next comment is by a guy named Gus Gorp, 4 years ago. He says, "My parents lived in the area near Woodland Park." Where is Woodland Park? Let's check it out. Oh, it's in Canada. Alberta. An unincorporated area. Where is it? Okay, it looks like it's right southwest of Edmonton. Woodland Park, okay. And what happened at Woodland Park? "I'm guessing my eyes were playing tricks on me. But one night I was sitting outside alone in the hot tub. They live in a very small town, and there's no unnatural light other than the sparse houses, which are very small and don't provide much light. So it's pretty dark. While sitting in the hot tub, I was facing towards the tree line, and when looking out into the trees, I saw a white, vaguely humanoid-looking shape move in the woods. I promptly went back inside and tried not to think about the situation for the rest of the night. Though looking back on the incident, I believe my eyes were playing tricks on me, though at the time it was unnerving and put me on edge for the rest of my stay." Okay, here's another one. This is 3 years ago, by Michael Ariano, I think. He says, "My grandmother said when he was a boy, his father and uncles caught a humanoid creature with pale skin and big black eyes. He said he remembered crying like a child. Maybe he said he recalled it remembered maybe? He said he remembered it crying like a child. They didn't know what else to do, so they let it go. Around the time of cattle mutilations in the area. It's Michoacan, Mexico. Also, Mr. Ballin has a story called Valley of Headless Men, which mentions pale creatures." Okay, so, crying like a child, that's something that Missy Sterling said the thing she saw did. And it also had big black eyes and pale skin. So that kind of accords pretty well with her story. The Valley of the Headless Men having pale creatures. I wrote, I think the modern wave of interest in the Headless Valley, that's the Nahanni Valley. I'm pretty sure it comes from my book. That was my 2018 book, Legends of the Nahanni Valley. And I don't recall reading about any pale creatures. But the thing about the Nahanni stories is they keep evolving over time. So I guess that's one of the newest iterations of the legends. Okay, let's go to the next one. Desideratum, 3 years ago. He says, "My ancestors called them moon-eyed people, and they lived in caves, long before my ancestors came there. Over 1,000 years at least. This was Appalachian Mountains in eastern U.S. At first they were at peace with them, but the moon-eyed people started eating the freshly buried dead in my tribe, and of course freaked them out. At war with them after that. I've seen footage of 2 of these tall, pale people on the roof of a building in Mexico City. They weren't wearing cloaks. Oh, they were wearing cloaks, and had very long necks, but looked just like these crawlers. Maybe their version of elders. I saw this footage on Slapped Ham's channel. Sorry I don't have a link." And it says, "People have seen these crawlers in Europe and Australia and Asia. They're everywhere, probably underground." So another story in Mexico. And moon-eyed peoples, I think it's from going through these comments. I'm pretty sure that's a Cherokee thing, but I'm not sure. He says, "My ancestors called them moon-eyed people," which makes me think this guy is Cherokee, but we'll find out. Okay, next one. Adam Weaver, 6351. "They're real. I've seen one too. It was walking in the dark. Disappeared behind a tree seconds after I saw it. I thought it was a hallucination. But I could hear it walking away for like a minute. One step after another, into the dark woods. No way it was a person. It was white, grey, and tall. I used to work on my car outside at night, but not anymore. My sighting scared me pretty badly, and had a very negative effect on me." Interesting. Next one is Evil X Fifi. 9 o'clock, he's referencing something in the video. "I witnessed something very, very similar in 2010, when I only recently started driving alone, in Belgium." Interesting. "It was past midnight when I was driving home on a long road, with a dark forest at either side. It would take 5 minutes or so to get to a village, so it wasn't like I was in the middle of nowhere. I was just trying to focus on the road, when suddenly a pitch-black creature ran towards the car from my left side. I thought it was an animal that wanted to cross, and it would definitely hit the car. Instead, it started running along with my car, which was driving around 90 kilometers an hour. For around 3 seconds, it continued to run alongside with me. After a few seconds, I believe it turned left again, back into the woods. I was scared beyond belief, and I probably never ever drove as hard as I did to get away from that thing. Everything happened so fast, and the only thing I was able to identify was that the creature was pitch black, running on 4 legs like a canine, and it was large enough to see it running next to me from my car window. To this day, I try to convince myself that it was a wolf or a dog that was just startled. Only weird thing about it was its speed. It could keep up with me for 4 seconds, which is unbelievable. So, not a pale crawler, it's a black thing, but the way it acted is evokes in that video. There's a guy from, I think it's Hay River, Northwest Territories, named Don Herbert, if memory serves, and he told me a story that he was a miner, and he was driving home to Hay River. Was it Hay River? Yeah, I think it was Hay River. He was driving home to Hay River in Northwest Territories, and this pale crawler came out of the road and ran in front as if it was going to smash into his car, and then at the last second it kind of turned and kind of loped alongside his car for a while before he passed it and left it in the ditch. But so this story has, the only connection seems to be the thing's behavior towards his car. Alright, next one. Old Scholar ASMR. Dawn's encounter is very similar to something that myself and my boyfriend experienced a few months ago. We lived in Thailand, Chiang Mai, and at night we often liked to go on joyrides outside the city on less used farm roads. This happened in August 2020. We were riding down one of the small roads we've taken before. There wasn't any traffic on the road that night, and the motorcycle headlight wasn't super bright, so only a small portion of the road ahead of us was illuminated when this white, hairless thing, the size of a large dog with long legs, lunged out at us from the side of the road, at us, and ran side by side with our motorcycle. So the same sort of thing. It's ran out and ran side by side. A white, hairless thing, the size of a large dog. So it sounds very similar to Dawn's thing. My boyfriend swerved to avoid it, into the oncoming lane, and this thing ran beside the bike, snapping at us for a few seconds, before it ran off into the side of the road. I got a decent look at its face. It had no ears, and a head shaped like a rat's. Its teeth seemed dog-like. We kept riding, until we got to a gas station where we stopped. Asked my boyfriend what that thing was, and he had no idea, but it was really dismissive of the idea that it was anything else but a dog. He still won't talk about it, and doesn't want to take that road again at night. I'm not exactly sure what I saw. It all happened very fast, but from what I did see, I am sure that thing wasn't a dog. I think about it all the time. I really want to figure out what it was. I really do think that it might be a crawler or pale man. So interesting. I honestly haven't gone through these comments very thoroughly, so we'll see if there's any more from Southeast Asia. Next one. FZ1000 Red. Kids were telling stories of the tall, skinny, child-eating monster man back in 1970 and 71, when I walked to school in first grade. We had to pass through a short wooded area next to an avocado farm that could appear gloomy due to tall trees lining both sides of the road. It was several years after moving away that I finally realized it wasn't an actual child-eating beast, but a story used by older kids to scare us, so an urban legend. Where are avocados grown? Is it California? Where are avocados grown? Oh, Guatemala, Mediterranean climates, and Mexico. So I don't know where this is. This story is set. Okay, next one. Beverly Chase, 3587. I've seen something that's similar, but what I saw was very tall and fast. My husband and I, coming home in the middle of the night, took a shortcut down Wharton Weems Road, from Highway 146 to Old Highway 146 to Shore Acres, Texas. So this is in Texas. It's a 2-lane farm road that sits high between a landscape of swamp, scrub trees, and thicket. Sometimes it floods real bad there. From our left, we saw it leaping in great long strides towards the road in front of us. When it leapt on the road in front of us, It turned its head sideways, and I swear I looked as if it was grinning. It was an ashy white skeletal figure, but leaning backwards at an angle with long hands, legs, and feet. If it stood erect, I'm guessing it would have been 10 to 11 feet high. That's pretty high. I don't know what else to say except that it terrified us. My husband never wanted to talk about it, and I doubt he ever did with anyone else. He probably knew they wouldn't have believed him anyway. Next one is Lightway 5685. Lightways 5685, and the location, it says, is Voyageur Provincial Park, Ontario. So where is that? Voyageur Provincial Park, Ontario. It's on the Ottawa River, just upriver from Montreal, on the southern shore. Okay, I was not sold on the rake, so the rake is one of the names that people use to describe this pale crawler thing. I was not sold on the rake until one of my exes and her boyfriend saw one. They had no idea what it was they had seen when she related the story to me. They had no idea what it was they had seen when she related the story to me. But after listening to their story and description, I showed them a couple of pics and videos from the internet. You could see the uneasiness on their faces as they both confirmed that this was the creature they had encountered. Spooky. Next one is by Patricia Mirez, 9295. I've seen this thing as well, but it was Arizona, driving very late at night up Mingus Mountain. The creature was a blur as it crossed in front of the car, but it paused and looked at us right before it crawled over the road barrier. It had whitish skin, long and lanky with a bald head and cataract-looking eyes. Very creepy and scariest thing I have seen, and will never forget it for the rest of my life. My husband, who was driving, does not recall seeing it, but I was freaking out and asking him, "Did you see that thing?" Interesting. So you can see the descriptions are always similar. It has white skin, long, lanky limbs, and it's bald. This one says cataract-looking eyes, so I imagine that'd be like kind of pale gray, which is different from the black ones you sometimes hear about. All right, next one is Winter Shock. I have a feeling I might have encountered one of these things. I used to have a cabin at Candle Lake in northern Saskatchewan. I'm curious, where is Candle Lake exactly? Candle Lake. Oh, okay, more like central Saskatchewan, I guess. What is close by? Nipawin. Oh, Prince Albert, I see. Okay. Kind of right on the barrier between the prairies and the, not the barrier, right at the edge of the prairies and the boreal forest. I've been to this place. Let's take a look. Yeah. Okay. Okay, when I was 8 or 9-ish, I wanted to sleep outside in a tent with my dad. He set up a tent outside, and we went in for the night. It was about midnight. I remember because I got scared and ran inside the cabin later on. Anyways, we were about to go to sleep, and we heard something walking in the driveway. We assumed it was a deer, because they would walk through our yard and graze often. That was until it made a sound. It was a horrifying howl, unlike a wolf, fox, cougar, or lynx. Not even like an elk either. It was terrifying. Even my dad was confused. When we were sure that whatever it was left, I ran back to the cabin where my mom was waiting for me. She too heard the sound, and wanted to see what it was, but it left before she could. If anyone else who has been, or is currently at Candle Lake, has heard that foreign howl, please let me know. I really wish I could go back up there and try to search for that thing, but given how big the area is, it will be hard. Also, for anyone wondering, this was near the south end of the airport, so he says it's a howl, and it's not like a wolf, a fox. Fox howls are really spooky. So are cougar howls, actually, and lynx. I don't know what lynx sound like. Not even like an elk, so must have been very, very creepy. Any ideas? Let me know if you have any ideas in the comments below what that thing was. Okay, next one is David Drain, 6643. I seen a strange critter 3 years ago. I was driving down the Irish Settlement Road in New Brunswick, Canada. There were snowbanks and snow on the road. It was about 3 feet long, with a tail of about 1 foot. I've lived in the woods for 4 years, and know all the critters. This thing was something I did not know of. It was all black, so not a pale crawler. Had a long muzzle, red eyes, long ears which was upright, a small chest and very short front legs. At its midriff, its hindquarters were very large. with big hind legs twice as long as the front legs. Its tail was the shape of a cone, very thick at the rump and going to a point at the tip. I was doing around 30 miles per hour as it came to the center of the road. As soon as my lights hit it, it turned its head away and leaped. It cleared the other snow bank by at least 25 to 30 feet, and the next leap it took it well into the trees. I braked to keep my lights on it, but it just vanished. Like I said, I know all the critters in New Brunswick. That was nothing I have ever seen before, twice as fast as a deer at least. 2 nights later, I went back and parked in the big fields up the road. After about 20 minutes, I heard calls that I never heard before, loud and screeching. Never seen anything, but could not help but hear it. There is strange things we do not know about, for now, anyway. Okay, so New Brunswick, and says it's 3 feet long with a tail of about 1 foot, was all black, had a long muzzle and red eyes, and long ears, which was upright. You know what, like, if it wasn't for the red eyes, I would say this accords pretty well with the creepy stories of Black Panthers in New Brunswick. There's a lot of them. I did a video on that not too long ago. Maybe this is one of those Black Panthers that people see all the time there. All right, next one is SCA-88, or SCA-88. Rake-looking creatures have been seen for a longer length of time than the supposed invention of as a creepypasta character. My friend who lives a couple hours away in Murrieta, California, desert town, saw one late at night, crawling in an inhuman manner in her neighbor's driveway, and by their car on the street. When she told me this last year, she had never heard of anything like a rake. I was the one who told her after her description was the same as any others I'd heard of. She won't walk in her neighborhood at night anymore. Okay, Owl Woman 13. My ex-husband saw this back in 2006 in downtown of Strathmore, Alberta. I was there. I just didn't look at our back window facing the alley like he did. We both saw 2 flashes of bright white light, which prompted him to go take a look. A car drove down the alley, just before this too, and I wonder what they might have seen. Those bright flashes weren't car lights either. Way too bright, and they came on like they were on a dimmer switch, increasing in brightness then decreasing. Each flash may be taking about 4 seconds. He saw it on all fours, ducked behind a large garbage bin, before the car drove away. Found out some years later what it was he saw. We've never heard of such thing before. Creepy. And the next one is Seraph89. There's many new schools being built in the isolated towns of Ontario, Canada. Once the clear-cutting began, the beings appeared. Ugh. In my town there was a herd of ancient humans, more wild than man, that were found around from May until October. They were 8 feet tall, with the child 6 feet tall. 3 other towns have had Jeepers Creepers, or the Mothman, visit their town multiple times. I don't know what Jeepers Creepers are, but the Mothman is an allusion to the West Virginia giant bird thing with red eyes that harassed people in the 60s? 66 and 67. 2 of those same towns have also seen a goat man being a nuisance to people out at night. I don't know what a goat man is. Next one is Maybe God Will Save Me. I saw something walking away from a deer dead on the road that was really tall and white. I was too scared to focus on it, so I never took a great look. I just remember I was walking into a forest as I was driving up to the deer and swerving to avoid it. It scared me more than anything in my life. I don't believe in ghosts. I'm still not sure if I really saw anything. It's just my fear. I've never felt that sort of fear, except when I felt my life was in danger in some way. So that's the same thing Missy said. She says that when she saw this thing, she was overcome by this overwhelming sensation of fear, like more powerful than, the sighting would lead you to believe that she should experience, if that makes sense. Like unnaturally powerful sense of fear. Next one is Entropy Dynamic 906. This is very credible to me, because I have seen something very similar in Switzerland a few years ago, in good detail, and I have every reason to remain assured that it was not any sort of prank. I have been casually researching since. These things have been cited in numerous countries in relatively similar ways for decades. Some cases involved injury. These gargoyle human horror movie-looking creatures tend to display both curious and hostile attitude. Switzerland. Alright. So we have one in Belgium and Switzerland. Those are the 2 European ones, I think, so far. Thomas 6763. I was driving one night in Montana, I think, out in the country with my girlfriend. It was about 11 o'clock p.m. at night, in the winter. Temps are about 10 degrees or so, and about a foot of snow on the ground. The snow brightens everything in the headlights, so what appears in front is real visible. So we're driving along about 45 miles per hour, and this thing hobbles across the road about 100 yards ahead of us on all fours. Looked like a disfigured animal or something, with no hair, white skin, and almost like it was gliding along. It had crossed the road by the time we got about 30 yards from it. I kept driving, and about 30 seconds later, I looked over at her and said, "Did you just see that thing that crossed the road? Or did you just see the thing cross the road?" She says, "Don't talk about it." Now, she has, in the past, and even today, seen shadow figures, and sometimes hallucinations when tired or anxiety strikes her. I said, "I'm not sure your experiences are illusion, because I saw it too." She said, "I don't want to talk about it," and that was that. Alright, this one's from Well Studied, and he says, "Exact same thing happened to my wife and I, but ours was what looked exactly like a hyena in New York. Ours was following deer off the mountain, and stood in the road staring at us for like 15 seconds. When I called New York State Department of Economy, no, I don't know what that is. When I called New York State Department of Econ, no one believed me. In fact, they errantly sent us an email in a chain that was making fun of us. I grew up in the woods, weaned on Animal Planet and Wild Kingdom. I even called the local game farm to see if something got loose. The next month I saw the exact same animal on Monster Quest. As for the BC video, I looked at that over and over and actually think it wasn't on the windshield. This is referring to, there was a video of something seen through a windshield. Some people were saying it was like a bug splat, and some people think it was something else. But reflecting from somewhere in the car onto the video, mine, or should I say ours, my wife and I, was completely real. In fact, we even saw it again a few nights later. Alright, Wendigo Rye says, "I remember my dad freaked out while driving. Me and my brother were dozing off. It was 1 a.m. We were deep in Oregon woods. In Oregon. He said a drunk bald man ran quickly like a bear across the highway. I have no idea if he was making it up at the time, but his reaction seemed genuine, and now I kinda believe him. That he saw one of these things." In his edit, I say kinda because he did admit he was just trying to scare us, but maybe he didn't want us scared. Yeah, if there's a drunk bald man in the middle of the Oregon woods, that's not too likely, I don't think, running across the road. ANPC, I don't know how to say this, ANPC PI9VU. I've heard a lot of accounts of things like this in the States. There's a historic story from the gold rush in the Southwest of people going missing in a remote canyon, and members of a tribe who sometimes go into the canyon warning people not to look at the white humanoid things in the eye. No, not to look the white humanoid things in the eye, and not to stay the night. The canyon is somewhat narrow in places. The cliffs are very sheer stone, and they are dotted with numerous caves the things are believed to live in. I think the rake is just a much more exaggerated fictional monster that has some vague similarities with these white humanoid entities. Some people give similar descriptions of chupacabra, except that the chupacabra isn't typically described as being able to walk upright, whereas the creature in the canyon during the gold rush, if I remember correctly, normally walk upright. Either way, the rake isn't that impressive, and this was already a common monster of American lore long before the internet. Thing is, most tribesmen don't like to talk about their lore, because they believe talking about entities brings their attention to you, and their fear of these things has much deeper roots than ours. So, it's in the American Southwest, in a gold rush. My American history is not that good. What was the gold rush in the American Southwest? Well, I'm not sure which one that was. Okay. Next one is Anonymous. No, Autonomous. Autonomous 7. Okay. I was driving my sons to their moms late one night out in the country. We were just past the Sutter Bypass, which is roughly 8 miles west outside the town of Yuba City, California. We came upon a humanoid figure, which was very tall, around 7 feet, extremely lanky. Its arms looked like they were 3 to 4 inches in diameter, or like sticks. It was chalky white, and my headlight seemed to reflect of its naked body. We didn't see its face, as it turned and walked away from the road back to the fields as we passed it. My son, who was in the front seat, and I immediately looked at each other in confusion and exclaimed at the same time, "Did you see that?" Having a car camera, we reviewed it when we arrived at their mother's, and unfortunately couldn't see it on it, as it was too far off into the field. We did happen to catch something we didn't see just before coming upon the figure. A goat-horned-faced person crouching in some brush in an irrigation ditch. It's really creepy. We went back several nights after that, armed with spotlights, but never saw anything. We frequently travel that route, and have yet to see anything again. So a goat-horned-faced person, which kind of evokes the goat man somebody else talked about earlier. Now, my Greek mythology isn't that good, but I think a goat man is like a faun. Is that right? Faun. Like one of the... a faun is a half-human, half-goat mythological creature appearing in Greek and Roman mythology, and I think they lived in Arcadia. That's the Arcadian Peninsula. It's this mountainous region that people didn't live in, really. And that's the legend was that they lived there. Next one is Third World Assassin. Me and two of my friends seen 3 people walking a block away from us at 4 a.m. The people's arms stretched and touched the ground, and they began lurching and crawling with these long arms. We watched the 3 things lurch into a large yard and disappear into thin air. I don't know what they were, but 3 people all seen them at once. At first, when we seen the 3 shapeshifters, I thought they were people who were going to start a fight and try and rob us or something. I literally put my wallet into my sock, because I thought we were going to have to fight them, and I didn't want my wallet to get stolen. These people's arms stretched and literally touched the ground from their standing position. They turned into something that wasn't human, and I've never seen before and never want to see again. When I feed my barn cats, I carry a Bowie knife just in case of possums, raccoons, and the dreadful thing I seen that night that broke the laws of physics, and that was a literal shapeshifter. I think it's funny he talks about hiding his wallet. Was that before or after these things' arms grew? Alright, next one is Anthony Falcon 2113. I saw that creature that John saw. I was about to hit it at 75, and it went faster than my car and got across the road so fast, unbelievably fast. Thought I may have seen a ghost or something, but everything that guy described I saw except the eyes. This thing moved too quick. I saw its head was round and bald, and it was skinny and pale grey-white, and its hands looked extremely odd, like between paw and human hands or something. So again, we see the bald head, pale skin, and kind of skinny arms and legs. Okay, they didn't like any animal's hands I've seen. They didn't look like any animal's hands I've seen. I was about a couple of steps away from getting smashed by my car. Oh, it was about a couple of steps away from getting smashed by my car. I had just hit 50, and then I accelerated to 75, and this creature popped into the road, and then was right there at 2 steps from being in front. When it got in front, and I braced to hit it, nothing happened. I looked in my mirror after going forward because I didn't hit it, and it was already across the road on the other sidewalk disappearing. It crawl ran on all 4s. It was crazy. I had drank an energy drink that night, and on the drive I wasn't blinking, so I recall if I blinked I may never have seen this thing. It was moving very rapidly, very quickly. So very similar to Don's sighting. Next one is Cottontail Joe. They exist. I really appreciate this video taking the time to address the issues. I have seen one, and it's a horrible encounter. Let me explain. No, I have seen one and had a horrible encounter. Let me explain. I was driving home one night. That's a common theme, driving home one night. They're all driving home one night. And I was ignorant of at least direct influence of the internet legends. I too thought I was either imagining or had a trip moment. But I don't do alternative medicines, aka drugs. I saw it at a place that I pass all the time. It was summer, and the place is near the highway, on the right side as I drive towards town. There is a well that is long closed by a very big stone. Strange, I know, but there is a huge flat stone placed on top of the well. And for some reason, either for when it was working or later, I don't know, there is a roof and 4 posts for keeping the water or sun off. Anyway, I was driving home late or early, take it as you will, either 2:45 or right at 3. It was 5 years ago, so I'm not sure. But the light passes over that well, and this thing as is described, but I can't verify the beak. But all the other signs, eyes, skin, and other long limbs are accurate. So the beak is a reference to, Don says the thing he had a beak, or like a beak-like mouth. It was sprawled over the roof of this well, and shaking its head violently. Why, I don't know, did I slow. No, did I get a hood look. I don't know what that means. Yes, I hate it, I saw it, I never want to see or encounter it again. But I have done as much research as I can, and I theorize that perhaps this is what used to be described as a ghoul. A ghoul. So memory serves, ghoul is like a Persian monster that eats bodies at night. Is that what it is? What is a ghoul? A legendary monster humanoid from Arabian folklore that feasts on human flesh, graveyards, and corpses. Arabian, okay. I am not sure on spelling, but there have been very different stories on this creature of myth. But these things, whatever they are, like to be around dead things, so I'm not going to go as far as decrepit the encounter of this story. Discredit, I think he means. But I do not wish to pursue tracking, so I'm not a behaviorist or anything. But please, for all that is good and holy, please be safe and take caution. I am still dealing mentally and emotionally with this fear. Be safe, safe, safe. Please, I pray for your safety. God is good, please be safe. So, dealing mentally and emotionally with this fear, that's the same thing that both Dawn and Missy described. Like they were traumatized from seeing this thing. It took them a while to recover from it, which is interesting. Okay, Joe 3 Pops says, there is an online story from a Jew who survived World War II slave labor in Germany. He claims towards the end of the war, many of them were assigned to work detail at the end of the railway line to dig tunnels, most likely to hide stolen loot. Now, I know that sort of thing did happen because I remember reading about, I think Himmler had a bunch of documents. Some of them were human experiment documents from some of the camps. And they had, their medical reports, they had kept them in there at the end of the war. Anyway, he said sometime during this work, the workers discovered these strange pale crawlers. Seemingly, the German troops were somewhat prepared for this additional danger. They had reaction teams of soldiers armed with machine guns, only slowed them down, and flamethrowers worked very well. He said these pale creatures killed many prisoners and several German guards quite easily. I don't know about this one. Seems kind of like a urban legend, a wartime legend, but who knows? There's a lot of stuff about World War II that I'm sure is not the way it's been put in the history books. So who knows? Next one is Lilith Hawkins, 6454. I had a weird and creepy encounter one time. I was riding my bike home from work one night and was pedaling by a field. Something ran across the field as I rode by, and when I passed, I looked behind me. There was a small, skinny thing about 3 feet tall, standing at the edge of the road. Freaked me out. I didn't know what it was. So I recall this comment was actually on, there's a story about this guy from Quebec. He lived in a cabin. He didn't live in a cabin. He had a cabin somewhere on the north shore of the St. Lawrence River. And he had an experience one night where he was harassed by one of these things. Was this tall, lanky creature that was crawling on the side of his cabin, and the other thing was this little, he said it looked like a little kid that was hopping around in the trees. And I did a video kind of covering his story. And so this little skinny small thing that's 3 feet tall, this lady's talking about, is a response to that guy's story. All right, the next one is Case Kokeler. I probably pronounced that wrong. Looks like a Dutch name. Your description reminded me of footage from the Fukushima tsunami in 2011. A recording from a rooftop clearly showed a slinky-like creature escape the waters by climbing the outside of a building. The creature must have come from the river as the water advanced. It was almost invisible to the human eye, but it matched the disproportionate appearance mentioned here. Very creepy. Okay, so this kind of reminds me of, I know very little about this, so I'm probably betraying my ignorance here, but I know there's Japanese demons called Tengu, and if you look at some of the old Japanese pictures of them, they look kind of like pale crawlers, if memory serves. Let me just take a look. Tengu. Oh, never mind, they're kind of different. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching. So let's continue. I think there are many creatures on Earth now who have recombined genetically to form unknown species. I think they're appearing in preparation for an environment we cannot quite yet imagine. For all the good reasons, creatures have been appearing on Earth since it became habitable as a planet. With regards to the light, the light is this Quebecois fellow. He saw a light kind of shining in the woods before these weird things started happening. It's possible that many of these creatures are highly intelligent, and that they may have senses we do not have. They could perhaps manipulate aspects of the environment to produce light and space anomalies, even as means of trying to communicate. From everything you said, it seems these creatures understood Pierre's intention to damage them. Pierre was the pseudonym I gave to this guy. He didn't want his real name revealed. And they made sure to stay out of harm's way, I guess. My question is the following. If they've not had many encounters with humans, how would they know what a rifle is, and what the intent of a person with a rifle would be? Instead of turning to myth and the occult, Pierre may well be the most privileged person to be able to encounter these creatures, and for them to allow him to see them. I think if they wanted to hurt him, they would have been able to do so quite easily. Pierre is most brave. Maybe he could try talking to them next time, while cradling his combat rifle in an unthreatening manner. Okay, the next one is from Joel Jelliff, 2901. Joel Jelliff. I experienced a similar, long, tall, thin creature while camping in the northwest part of Algonquin Park. So that's in Ontario here. Algonquin Provincial Park. That is kind of east of Georgian Bay, north of Lake Ontario, northwest of Ottawa. And I think it's right on the edge of what you'd call the Canadian Shield. I don't think it's quite in it yet. It's still considered part of southern Ontario. But if you go a little bit further north, you get to the Canadian Shield, I think. Okay, so he is camping in the northwest part of Algonquin Park in the night. Came into our camp after fire died down, and we were raising a bear barrel. So I guess that's a barrel of food that you tie up in a tree so the bears don't get at it. I yelled at it when I saw its silhouette crossing the campsite. It turned its head towards me, and its eyes reflected red from my headlamp. I ran into the woods, and I chased after, but it ran so fast, outpacing me rapidly. I returned to camp. My teenage sons and 2 friends were wide awake. Their eyes were all wide open. They were in a state of super awareness. It must have been over 7 feet tall. As I had hung a tarp line at 6.5 feet, and when it turned to look at me, its head was above the line. It had coarse fur all over its body, so not a pale crawler. I have no idea what its face looked like. It definitely behaved as a nocturnal scavenger. It did not want to be seen or heard. It fled upon my yelling at it in a command voice. At first I thought it was a person, but quickly realized it wasn't. My brain tried to rationalize what it was. I started thinking it was an old sick moose. Nothing else could be that tall. We were so relieved to paddle out the next morning. I didn't sleep all that night. What is it? I have no idea. The description of the Wendigo by the native peoples is the best description. So I don't agree with this statement here. The description of the Wendigo is the best explanation because the natives out there are Ojibwe and Algonquin, and their Wendigo is like a corpse, like an animated corpse, like a tall. It would be, I guess, hairless like a human. Human. That's kind of super skinny and has pale gray skin. Incidentally, kind of like the pale crawler. So I don't think that is I don't agree with that interpretation. Let's keep going. This is Milehawk 2026. I've seen something similar to what the Quebec man saw while doing my fasting ritual, spending 3 days and nights in the woods. No food, water, or sleep in one spot. So it seems like this guy, he must be native, or what he's doing is called a vision quest. This is kind of one of those weird cultural things that is shared by natives all across Canada, and I'm sure lots of the United States, which is, the cultures are all very, very different. But this is one thing that a lot of them have in common. They'll go into the woods, usually into a dangerous place, and they'll fast, and they won't have any water. The sleep thing, I don't know about that. I'm sure in some cultures maybe they don't sleep. I know in the West Coast they bathe themselves in cold water constantly. But anyway, they do this until they think they're visited by an inhuman spirit. They call it a guardian spirit, which will come into them in a dream, and it'll it'll give their power to them, and then they'll have to probably do a dance or something at certain rituals, and they have the power of this guardian spirit. And it could be anything like, a bear, or it could be the sun. There's all sorts of different things depending on what culture you're talking about. But anyway, looks like this guy's going on a vision quest. It was the second night. I was under a tree, and it was really dark out, but you could see some stars past the treetops that were where I was looking at. Then all of a sudden, I could hear some faint voices in the distance, and to my left, in a small brush clearing, could see what I could best describe as an embers from a fire, but suspended in the air like a mist and moving. So embers floating in the air. It kept the shape of a circle. Then I could see small orbs of light falling like snow from the trees around me. I decided to look straight up from the tree I was under, just to see if the orbs would land on me. But I nearly fainted when I looked up and seen a figure so dark, it was darker than the forest. It is hard to explain, but it was so pitch black, you could easily distinguish it from the rest of the black in the deep forest. It had no features at all. It was really skinny, and long arms, torso, legs, and fingers. I'd say it were about 7 to 8 feet long. When I saw it, it looked like it was crawling down to me, like how a squirrel would crawl on a tree. After I said in our tongue to go away, it crawled up a tree a bit and jumped to the next tree over. It never made a sound. After a few minutes, the orbs disappeared, and that mist, no more voices, etc. Happened in northern Minnesota, relatively near the Canadian border of Manitoba. Interesting. So this story has a lot of elements in common with that the Quebec guy's story. So before, they both had some weird light kind of showing up, floating in the air, which preceded the creepier events. And then both of them had a creature that was long and lanky and crawled around, like on in Quebec it crawled on his cabin, and in this guy it crawled down a tree like a squirrel, he said. And then it also hopped away in the trees, which is what the little thing did in the Quebec guy's story. So that is interesting. Very interesting. Okay, next one is Blumenkrieg 735. I have seen an entity very similar to the tall being described in this video in the mountains of northern Utah while camping. It was about 12 feet tall, extremely skinny, its torso being maybe the thickness of a small tree, and extremely pale. It shifted from tree to tree, hiding behind them, and seemed to be watching us in our camp, which was on the other side of a fairly large pond, between the camp and the grove the creature was in. Later that day we went to the grove, and did not see anything that we could have mistaken for such a creature. Of course, my phone was in the car, back at the trailhead, since I didn't want it to get damaged during our trip. Typical, I know. But I'm fairly confident that what I saw was real, as 4 or 5 others saw it as well. I have had friends describe similar creatures, and know that Utah has many urban legends and folk tales about creatures similar to the Wendigo, or skinwalkers. Skinwalkers is a thing I always see brought up in this conversation with pale crawlers, and equated to the Wendigo. Skinwalkers, I think, is a Navajo thing, or Apache thing. It's from the American Southwest. I could be wrong. But my impression is that they're like supposed to be medicine men that can shapeshift. So I don't know why there's this connection between them and pale crawlers and Wendigos, but maybe there's something I don't know. Next one is I Am Michigan. R326. I have seen a thing like this in an old decaying house near Bear Lake, Michigan. I believe those things were rakes, which I believe are interdimensional beings. I wonder if they can be appeased, like you would an uneasy human spirit. I would try leaving a gift, say a shiny necklace, and talk to them, telling them that you mean no harm, and that you just want peace. I wonder if they would interact with you. Maybe use a spirit box, and that might help them communicate with you. If they are malevolent, then I do not think there is really anything you can do about it. Next one is Bud Back East. Here in Cherokee, North Carolina, we have legend exactly as described in this video, starting at timestamp. 3 feet tall, white little skinny people with large blue eyes, which only come out at night, as the sun was too bright. We called them moon-eyed people. Okay, right, so moon-eyed people. That's one of the very first stories we looked at. The Cherokee Indians claim that they are still here, living in caves and holes in the ground. There are videos about them here on YouTube. One lady I know leaves food out for them at night. Thanks for the video. You're welcome. Okay, we got 2 more. This is from Ultra-Terrestrials. In Germany, Bavaria, we have the giant from Arget, not far from Munich, Oktoberfest, as it is passed down in legends. It looks like a slender man. Oh, it looks like Slender Man. He follows people walking through the woods and then disappears without a trace. Slender Man is therefore not a modern invention. In Bavarian legends, it was known hundreds of years ago. So now we have a story from Bavaria, Switzerland, and is it Belgium is the other one, I think? And the last one, he says, this is from Gatekeeper 36. He says, in Vietnam, they also have a humanoid creature like the Wendigo. They are skinny, pale white, but it has long black hair, so it's not bald. It lives up high in the trees and pulls people up to drink the blood. Some sort of vampire. The American troops stumbled upon the creature, but thought it was the Viet Cong hiding up in the trees. Oh, that's creepy. Alright, so these are all the stories that I found so far on the Pale Crawlers. So let me know if you like this sort of format. It's going to be very, very crude, not polished. Just me kind of reading comments and making my own comments on them. I don't think I'll add any music to it. But anyway, if you like this sort of thing, I'll keep making them. Of course, I'll keep making my traditional videos with the music and the polished prose and the, better narration. But these videos seem like they're going to be pretty easy to make. So if you like them, I'll probably throw them in here and there. But either way, please let me know in the comments what you think.